After discovering an affair, she was kicked out of the house by her husband. But one day, Claire was in the room packing the last of their belongings. With each item placed in the box, a memory surfaced. Her heart felt heavy. She looked out the window at the neighborhood where she had lived for the past 2 years since getting married. Josh walked into the room with a radiant smile. "All set, my love?" Claire forced a smile. "Almost. I'm just finishing the suitcase." Josh came closer, wrapping her in a hug. "I know it's hard, but this promotion is a great opportunity. It's going to change our lives." "I know," Claire replied, trying to hide the sadness in her voice. "It's just, I'm going to miss everything here." "You'll make new friends, and it will be so worth it," Josh said, trying to comfort her. "And soon, we'll be settled in the new place." Claire nodded, but her heart felt heavy. She had a bad feeling about this move. She didn't understand what it was, maybe some premonition, or perhaps it was just her subconscious not wanting to leave everything behind. Saying goodbye to her hometown, the job she had for over 6 years, her friends and family was very difficult. The next morning, the car was loaded and ready to go. Claire looked at her house one last time, feeling a lump in her throat. "It's going to be a new adventure," Josh said, grinning from ear to ear. "You'll see, it will be wonderful." She got into the car, looking out the window as they drove away. Every mile traveled seemed to increase the distance between her and her old life. When they arrived in the new city, they were greeted with the typical hustle and bustle of an unfamiliar place. The apartment was nice, modern, but cold and impersonal. Josh was excited, exploring every corner, while Claire tried to adjust to the new reality. The following days were filled with the routine of unpacking and adjusting to the new environment. Josh would leave early and come back late, engrossed in his new role. Claire, alone most of the time, tried to find meaning in the new city. She took long walks in the morning, exploring neighborhoods, and in the afternoon she searched for a job, having worked since she was 18. While waiting for interview calls, she dedicated herself to decorating the apartment, making it more welcoming. "Look, I put these photos on the wall. What do you think?" Claire said, showing Josh the mural she had created with old and recent photos. Josh glanced briefly. I don't like it much. I find it a bit tacky." Claire nodded, trying to hide her sadness. More and more, Josh seemed distant, absorbed in his work. The nights he came home late became more frequent, and some weekends he had to work too. Claire found herself alone, waiting for a husband who never had time for her, waiting for an interview, just waiting for something good. One night, when Josh finally came home, Claire looked at him with a worried expression. "Josh, can we talk?" "Sure, about what?" he replied, taking off his tie with a tired sigh. "It's just, I feel like we're drifting apart. You're always at work and I'm alone here." Josh frowned, looking irritated. "Claire, I'm doing this for us. This promotion is important. You knew it would be tough at the beginning." "I know, but I can't help but miss how we were before. It feels like you're not present anymore." He sighed deeply. "I'm tired, Claire. I'm already stressed at work, and when I come home, you start complaining. This is my dream job." She nodded, feeling a wave of frustration and sadness. Unspoken words hung in the air, creating an invisible barrier between them. In the following weeks, Claire tried to keep busy. She took cooking classes, joined reading groups, but nothing filled the emptiness she felt. Her relationship with Josh seemed to worsen every day. He was always busy, and when he was home, his mind seemed elsewhere. One night, while they were eating dinner in silence, Claire finally broke down. "Josh, you're pulling away. We're not the same anymore." Josh dropped his fork, his face contorting with anger and frustration. "I'm trying, Claire. Why can't you understand that? Everything I do is for us. But we're not together in this anymore. You've changed. We've changed." He abruptly stood up from the table. "Maybe you're the one not trying hard enough. I'm tired of these complaints. Good night." Claire felt tears welling up as Josh left the room. She felt crushed by the weight of loneliness and despair. That night, they slept in separate rooms, each trapped in their own dark thoughts. The following weeks were a painful cycle of hope and disappointment. Every attempt at reconciliation was followed by a bitter argument. Claire began to suspect something more was happening. Josh was increasingly evasive, and his absence was more noticeable. Josh, are you hiding something from me? Claire asked one night, her voice trembling. He looked at her coldly. Don't be ridiculous, Claire. I don't have time for your insecurities. His words felt like a blow. Claire felt suffocated by the silence and the growing distance between them. The walls of the apartment, which once promised a new beginning, now felt like a prison. Claire woke up that morning with a sense of unease. Josh had left early for work, as usual, but something was different. She decided she needed to understand what was happening. The suspicion that had been growing inside her could no longer be ignored. While organizing the bedroom, she found a receipt from an expensive restaurant, dated a night Josh had claimed to work late. She felt her heart tighten, but tried to push away negative thoughts. There must be an explanation, she whispered to herself. In the afternoon, while checking Josh's phone as he showered, she saw a series of messages from a woman named Rachel. The messages were intimate, full of affection, and promises of future meetings. Claire felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. When Josh came out of the bedroom, Claire was sitting at the kitchen table, her eyes red from crying. She held his phone in one hand and the receipt in the other. Josh looked at her, confused. What now, Claire? She threw the phone on the table. Who is Rachel, Josh? He went pale, his eyes wide. Claire, I can explain. Explain what? She screamed, standing up. You're cheating on me, Josh. All those nights you said you were working, you were with her, weren't you? Josh took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Claire, please, listen to me. It was a mistake. A mistake? She laughed bitterly. A mistake is forgetting to take out the trash. Cheating on your wife repeatedly is not a mistake. It's a choice. Josh rubbed his face with his hands, his expression turning to anger. The mistake was coming here with you, was marrying you. But we can't go on like this. I want a divorce. I want to be free. His words felt like a knife to Claire's heart. She felt tears streaming down again, but this time it was pure sadness and despair. So that's it? You're leaving me for her? I'm not leaving you for anyone, Josh replied coldly. I'm asking you to leave. We can't continue like this. Claire stared at him, incredulous. You're kicking me out of the house? After everything I've done for us? Done what, Claire? You're a burden, an anchor. You have no ambition. It's been 2 months since we moved here, and you haven't even looked for a job. I'm done. I want someone who will take me to the top, and you're not that person, he said, not meeting her eyes. Please, go. She felt her heart shatter. Without saying another word, she went upstairs, grabbed a small suitcase, and started packing some clothes. As she came down the stairs, Josh was getting dressed and putting on cologne. I hope you can manage on your own. Here's some money, enough to get you back to North Carolina, Josh said. I don't need it, Claire said, her voice breaking. Josh merely nodded, unable to look at her. Claire left, feeling the weight of betrayal and despair with each step she took. That night, she wandered the streets, aimless, with no place to go, her soul devastated by the pain of a life that had been shattered. The night enveloped Claire like a cold, indifferent shroud. The streetlights seemed distant, almost unreal, as people hurried home while she wandered aimlessly, feeling lost in the middle of the city. Each step felt like a monumental effort, each street an endless extension of her pain. She clutched her coat around her, trying to fend off the cold and loneliness. The biting wind carried the scent of the city, mixed with the aroma of food wafting from restaurants, making her empty stomach churn. Hours passed, and Claire found a bench in a park where she sat, hugging her knees and trying to hold back her tears. The loneliness was overwhelming, and the reality of her situation seemed crueler with each passing minute. She got up and started walking again, the night drawing to a close. The streets were nearly deserted, and Claire felt increasingly weighed down by despair. At one point, while walking past a luxurious restaurant with large glass windows, she looked inside and felt her heart stop when she saw Josh sitting with an elegant woman. They were laughing and seemed happy, completely oblivious to the pain they had caused her. No, it can't be, murmured Claire, her eyes filling with tears again. Feeling consumed by despair, she began to run aimlessly, just wanting to escape all the pain. Her vision blurred by tears, and the sound of cars and people seemed distant, muffled by her anguish. Suddenly, she heard the sound of a car braking sharply, but before she could react, she felt the impact. Everything went dark. The hospital room was silent except for the rhythmic sound of the heart monitor beside Claire's bed. The fluorescent lights cast a cold glow over the room. Claire, lying down, felt her body aching and her mind confused. The accident was still a blur in her memory, but the greater pain was the memory of being thrown out of her home and Josh's harsh words, and she immediately began to cry copiously. Ethan, who was in the corner of the room, looked at Claire with a deeply concerned expression. He couldn't shake off the guilt of having caused more pain in this woman's life. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. Claire tried to smile, but the pain was evident in her eyes, physically and emotionally shattered. Ethan nodded, understanding. "What happened before I hit you?" Claire looked up at the ceiling, tears beginning to stream down her face. "My life turned into chaos. My husband, he threw me out of the house, and I saw him in a restaurant with another woman." Ethan held Claire's hand, offering the only comfort he could at that moment. "I'm so sorry for that. No one deserves to go through something like that." Claire took a deep breath, trying to keep her voice steady. "We moved here because of his job. I left everything behind for him, my life, my friends, my job, everything. And then I found out he was cheating on me. When I confronted him, he just kicked me out." Ethan listened attentively, each word increasing his determination to help. "I saw him with another woman in the restaurant. They were laughing, happy, while I was on the street, with nothing, cold. How could I have been so wrong?" Claire's voice broke, and she began to cry again. Ethan leaned in, holding her more firmly. "I'm here, and I'm going to help you get through this." Claire looked into Ethan's eyes, seeing a sincerity she hadn't encountered in a long time. "Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. I don't even know your name." He smiled. "I'm Ethan, the person who hit you. I'm sorry for that." "Nice to meet you, Ethan. I guess I was the one who hit your car," she said with a brief smile. He smiled softly. "The doctors told me you had a fractured leg and that you won't be able to put weight on it for 2 weeks. So for a good and full recovery, I'm going to take you to my home." No, Ethan, I can't accept that." "I can't accept not helping you after hitting you. It's already decided. Once you're discharged, we're going to my place." Ethan's words pierced Claire's heart, offering a small glimmer of hope. I don't know how to thank you." "You don't need to thank me. Just focus on getting better. You can stay at my apartment until you recover. I have space, and you need care." Claire hesitated, but the pain and exhaustion were overwhelming. "I don't want to be a burden to you." "You won't be, and who knows? You might even help me put life into perspective," he said with an encouraging smile. Ethan gently squeezed her hand again, a silent promise that she was no longer alone, and in the early hours of the morning, they went to Ethan's home. Claire woke up with a start, her chest heaving as she tried to distinguish reality from the nightmares that haunted her. Ethan's room was small but cozy. She felt tears welling up again, a mixture of relief and deep sadness. Ethan appeared at the door, looking concerned. "Are you okay? I heard you screaming," he asked softly. Claire tried to compose herself, but her voice came out shaky. "Nightmares. About Josh, about everything." He entered the room and sat on the edge of the bed. "It will take time, but you'll get through this." Claire nodded, grateful for the support but unable to shake off the sense of despair. "I feel like I'm losing my mind. Every time I close my eyes, I relive everything." Ethan held her hand firmly. "You've been through a lot, Claire. But here, you're safe. Try to focus on small things, one day at a time." In the following days, Claire tried to follow Ethan's advice. She began to get up, even when the physical and emotional pain threatened to paralyze her. Slowly, she started to involve herself in small household tasks, tidying up, doing the dishes, anything to occupy her mind. One day, while washing the dishes, Ethan entered the kitchen. "You don't have to do that, you know. You're here to recover." Claire smiled faintly. "I know, but it helps me not to think about everything. Besides, it's the least I can do for you." He watched her for a moment before responding. "You're doing much more than you think. Your strength is inspiring." Claire stopped and looked at him, surprised. "I don't feel strong. I feel broken." Ethan took a step forward, touching her shoulder gently. "Strength isn't about not falling, but about getting back up after every fall. And you're getting back up every day." However, the nights continued to be a challenge. The nightmares were frequent, and often Ethan was woken by the sound of her screams. One night, he found her on the couch, trembling and sobbing after another terrible nightmare. "Hey, it's okay," he said, sitting down next to her and pulling her into a hug. "It was just a bad dream." Claire clung to him, seeking comfort. "They don't stop, Ethan. I can't escape them." He held her gently, murmuring words of reassurance. "It will get better, Claire. I promise. I'm here with you, and I'm not going anywhere." Over time, the daily routine helped Claire find a sense of normalcy. She started looking forward to her conversations with Ethan in the evenings when he returned from the restaurant he owned. His stories about work and customers distracted her from her own pain. One day, Ethan came home to find the living room immaculately tidy and a delicious smell wafting from the kitchen. He walked in and saw Claire preparing dinner. "You did all this?" he asked, surprised. Claire smiled, a shy but genuine smile. "I wanted to do something special to thank you for everything." Ethan looked around, amazed. "It's perfect, Claire. You didn't have to do this." She shook her head. "Yes, I did. You've been my rock. I want you to know how much it means to me." They sat down to dinner, and for the first time in a long while, Claire felt a sense of peace. The constant presence and support of Ethan were beginning to heal the deep wounds in her heart. And as they laughed and talked, Claire started to believe that maybe, just maybe, there could be a new beginning for her, one built on trust, kindness, and renewed hope. Weeks went by, and Claire began to feel a light recovery in her mind and heart. Ethan watched her progress with a mix of pride and concern. He knew Claire needed a purpose, something to keep her occupied and help her rebuild her life. One morning, while having coffee, Ethan looked at Claire, hesitating for a moment before speaking. "Claire, I've been thinking, would you like to work at the restaurant? Just as an assistant for now." Claire looked up, surprised. "At the restaurant? Ethan, really? But what if I mess up?" Ethan smiled gently. "You won't mess up. You're strong, dedicated, and I'll be there to help you." She bit her lip, thinking, it would be nice to have something to do, something to distract me, and that way, I wouldn't be taking up space in your apartment. "Stop it, Claire. It's been great having you here. You brighten up the place," Ethan said. "We'll start tomorrow. I know you'll do great." The next day, Claire arrived at the restaurant nervous but determined. Ethan introduced her to the staff, who welcomed her warmly, though some curious looks revealed that everyone knew a bit about her story. "This is our new team member, Claire," Ethan said, with an encouraging smile. "She's starting as an assistant. I'm counting on everyone to support her." The first few weeks were tough. Claire felt every muscle ache by the end of the day, but the sense of doing something useful kept her motivated. She cleaned tables, washed dishes, helped in the kitchen, always with a shy but determined smile. One afternoon, while washing dishes, one of the chefs, Marco, approached her. "You're doing a great job, Claire. It's not easy to adapt so quickly." Claire smiled, feeling encouraged. "Thank you, Marco. I'm trying my best." "It shows," he said, nodding. "Keep it up." Ethan watched from a distance. He saw the slow but steady transformation in her confidence. One night, as they were closing the restaurant, he approached her. "Claire, you've been doing an amazing job. Everyone is noticing." Claire smiled shyly. "I'm just trying not to fall one step at a time. I see the dedication in everything you do, and it's admirable." As time passed, Claire began to feel like part of the team. She worked hard, often staying late, and always offered to help with any task needed. The nights she spent at Ethan's house became a routine, but she felt more at peace than she had in a long time. One evening, after a long day of work, Claire and Ethan were in the kitchen, preparing something to eat. "You know," Ethan said, while chopping vegetables, "I think you're ready for a new challenge." Claire looked at him, curious. "What kind of challenge?" "I was thinking of promoting you to work with the customers. You have a natural way of connecting with people. I think you'd be a great addition to the front team." Claire felt emotional. "I don't know what to say. Do you really think I'm ready?" "I know you're ready," Ethan said with a smile, "and I'll be there to support you." That night, as she prepared for bed, Claire felt a mix of nervousness and excitement. For the first time in a long while, she felt she was regaining control of her life. And she knew that, with Ethan by her side, she could face any challenge the future held. The next day, the restaurant was at its peak of activity when Claire came in for her shift. She was becoming more comfortable in her role, but still felt butterflies in her stomach every time the dining room filled with customers. The atmosphere was vibrant, with lively conversations and the clinking of silverware. That evening, a group of Korean customers entered the restaurant. The waitstaff exchanged worried looks, as no one there spoke Korean fluently. Claire watched from afar, feeling the tension rise. Then she took a deep breath, walking over to the customer's table. "안녕하세요," she said with a warm smile. "Jeogyo?" The customers looked surprised and then smiled, clearly relieved. They started placing their orders in Korean, and Claire carefully noted everything down, responding in the language whenever she could. Ethan watched the scene from afar, impressed. When Claire returned to the kitchen to deliver the orders, he stopped her. "Claire, that was amazing. Where did you learn to speak Korean like that?" She smiled, embarrassed. "My neighbor was Korean. She taught me a bit, and I've always liked the language. Plus, I watch a lot of dramas." Ethan, still in awe, said, "You saved the night. Thank you." The evening continued, and the Korean customers were visibly pleased, smiling and chatting happily. When they finished their meal, one of them approached Ethan and Claire with a big smile on his face. "Thank you very much," he said in English. "Your employee is wonderful. She's worth her weight in gold. It was an amazing experience." Ethan thanked him, feeling immense pride for Claire. After the customers left, he called the entire staff for a brief meeting. "Everyone, I want to congratulate Claire on the incredible work she did today," he began, looking at her with a smile. "She not only served our Korean customers flawlessly, but also demonstrated a skill none of us knew she had." Claire blushed but smiled shyly. "I just did what I could." "And you did more than enough," Ethan continued. "That's why I'm promoting Claire to a position where she can work directly with our customers, and I know she'll be an excellent addition to the front team." The team applauded, and Claire felt tears of joy welling up in her eyes. The gratitude she felt for Ethan and the opportunity was immense. Later that night, as they were tidying up the restaurant, Ethan approached Claire. "I knew you had great potential, but today you surprised me in a way I didn't expect." Claire smiled, looking at him with gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without your support, Ethan. You believed in me when I didn't even believe in myself." He held her hand, squeezing it firmly. "You deserve all of this, Claire, and much more. I am very proud of you." Ethan hesitated for a moment, then continued. "Claire, I know you've been through a lot, but I want you to know that I'm here for you, not just as a boss, but as a friend. And maybe something more." Claire looked at him, surprised. "Ethan, He interrupted her gently, placing a hand on her arm. "I know it might be too soon, but I can't help how I feel. You're an amazing person, Claire, strong, courageous, and kind, and I like you a lot." Claire felt her heart beat faster. She also felt something for Ethan, a strong connection. "I like you too, Ethan. I'm just not sure if I'm completely ready." Ethan smiled, his eyes shining with a mix of relief and joy. "I'll be patient. Can I kiss you, Claire?" Claire nodded, feeling a mix of nervousness and excitement. Ethan moved closer, gently placing a hand on her face. He leaned in slowly, his eyes fixed on hers, and then their lips met. The kiss was soft and gentle, but filled with emotion. Claire felt a wave of warmth course through her body, a sense of peace and security she hadn't felt in a long time. Ethan pulled her closer, deepening the kiss, and she gave herself completely to the moment. When they finally pulled away, both were breathless. Ethan smiled, his eyes shining. "I've wanted to do that for so long, Claire." They hugged, feeling the connection between them grow even stronger. The restaurant around them seemed to disappear, leaving just the two of them in their own world. "I want you to know that I'm here for you, Claire. Always," Ethan said, gently caressing her face. Claire nodded, feeling a tear roll down her cheek. "I know, Ethan, and I'm here for you too." They kissed again, this time with more intensity, sealing the promise of a future together. When they finally pulled apart, both knew that something special had begun between them, something that could heal the wounds of the past and pave the way for a future full of love and hope. At night, after a long and productive day, Claire and Ethan would head home together. They would prepare dinner, talk about their day, and share dreams and plans for the future. The nights were warm and full of love, with each moment together strengthening their bond even more. One night, as they were lying in bed, Claire felt a wave of nausea. She quickly got up and ran to the bathroom, feeling sick. Ethan followed her, concerned. "Claire, are you okay?" he asked, holding her as she leaned over the toilet. Claire took a deep breath, trying to compose herself. "I don't know what's happening, Ethan. Maybe it's something I ate." Ethan helped her back to bed and brought a glass of water. "You should rest. You've been working a lot." Claire smiled, grateful. "It must have been the chicken I ate earlier." In the following days, Claire continued to feel unwell. Ethan took her to the hospital, where several tests were done, and one of them came back positive, a pregnancy test. When they saw the positive result, they hugged, crying. "Claire, this is amazing. I couldn't be happier." He hugged her tightly, feeling a wave of love and gratitude. "We're going to be a family, Claire. We're going to have our own children." Claire smiled, feeling a deep peace. "Yes, Ethan, we're going to be a family." Together, they began to plan for the future, knowing that despite all the difficulties they had faced, they were now ready for a beginning full of love, hope, and the promise of a bright future. Imagine going through everything Claire went through. What would you do in Claire's place? Tell me in the comments and subscribe to hear more stories like this.